What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Legacy United Deluxe Class G1 Universe Autobot Gears, a character originally teased to be seeing a release as part of the Transformers Kingdom line, although fast forward 4 years, he is now finally back with a bang as he has made the jump through the multiverse into the Legacy Universe. And as we directly compare him to his on-screen character model, mostly spot on. I think right now Hasbro are killing it when it comes to some of these mini-bot updates, and it makes me super excited to see as to who we could see next. So as we check out the details, this guy is a mini-bot, so as you would expect, is quite small in comparison to some of the other Deluxe Voyagers and Leaders, but much like we saw from the animated universe Bumblebee, he is stacked. Hasbro have literally sculpted this guy front side to back, so there are barely any hollow joints on this guy. He is mostly incredibly sculpted, so as we check out the head design, it is so G1 accurate. I mean, the paint details are on point, the chest unit is looking sick, and I also like to blend in with some of the other Legacy and War for Cybertron characters. He's also been given a fair amount of kind of this extra surface detail, which I think is looking great. As we check him out here from the back, the backpack isn't looking too bad, and I also love some of the sculpting, which again can be seen from behind. As I mentioned, barely any hollow joints on this guy. You know, the back of the arms are completely filled in. The same can be said here for the ass and the legs, so definitely a really solid looking figure. I think alongside the Studio Series 86 Brawn, this guy may just be one of my favourite updated G1 mini-bots to date, and at least in my eyes has definitely been well worth the 4-year wait. Now, as we check out Gears' firepower, he is packing his OG Cybertronian blaster. Now, we never saw too much of this in the show because he never really was an Autobot which would be called to arms by Optimus Prime, but he is packing this, and it does seem to be pretty accurate to the very brief appearance that it did make on the TV show. But that's not all for this guy, because an amazing attention to detail would be that in the original G1 episode Changing Gears, both Megatron and Starscream require a piece of this guy's internal circuitry to build their solar needle, and that is a look which you can fully replicate with this figure. So to do this, you are supposed to take the chest piece, slide this upwards, and check out some of his internal circuitry. That is such a sick attention to detail. The sculpting is pretty much bang on to what we did very briefly see in the show, and it's awesome to see them fully integrate this into an actual deluxe class. You know, this is based on a few seconds from one Generation 1 episode, so to see it so brilliantly executed in this release, I think is amazing. And right now, whoever is designing Transformers are absolutely on point, you know, especially with Legacy United. At least for myself, I think it has mostly been banger after banger after banger, so features like this make me super excited to see as to what we can expect with future releases, because this is something which I just never in a million years thought that we would see fully integrated into a mainline release. Now, as we check out his posability, this is really what I think makes this guy. He is so enjoyable to mess around with, and in some areas is even more articulated than significantly larger characters. So, to begin with, the head is on a ball joint. This will look up, it will look down, it can tilt side to side slightly and also rotate left to right. The shoulders will move all the way around with no problem, they'll then hinge out to the side, but check this out. Due to the way he transforms, I guess technically it's intentional because it can also move backwards. He is packing an actual butterfly joint, which I thought was brilliant. I mean, check that out. It can move back, it can move forwards. This is wicked, especially when getting this guy into some of the slightly more dynamic poses. There is then a bicep cut, a double jointed elbow, mainly due to the way he transforms, but that is such a clean cut. There is then a wrist swivel, a waist joint, which is completely uncompromised. The hips will kick forwards roughly to that far. They will then kick backwards. They can go out to the sides. There is a thigh cut and a double joint here at the knee, mainly due to transformation, but that is supreme. And then finally, the ankle pivot. Is this guy going to deliver in this department? Absolutely. He has one of the deepest cuts, which again I have so far seen on one of these Legacy United Deluxes. So amazing articulation, you know, along with the incredibly strong design. I think that is one of the things which makes him stand out among some of the other Deluxes from Wave 2. And I'm going to tell you guys straight away, out of some of the ones which I have left to review, this is definitely the highlight out of the wave for myself. But to see what he is truly capable of, you guys know we have to put him through the pose test. Now, checking out some comparisons, on the right hand side we have the Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Beachcomber. Another banger when it came to an updated minibot, and I believe I mentioned this in the Studio Series 86 Brawn review, but despite some of these modern minibots being released across multiple years in completely different lines, it's awesome to see that Hasbro have mostly stayed truthful to their word and have kept everything in scale. You know, these two I think look great stacked up against each other, and I just cannot wait again to see what other minibots we can see going into 2025. Here is how he stacks up against the Transformers Kingdom Deluxe Class Huffer, who was a pretty decent figure released for its time, although I don't think is as great as this Gears. In some ways, I am kind of glad that they did put this guy on the back burner, because I think if he was released in 2020, maybe he wouldn't have been as good as he is, because this guy I think at the moment is likely to be one of the weakest updated mini-bots that we've so far seen. But again, the scale between these two definitely appears to be pretty on point. To fire through a few more mini-bot comparisons, we have the Kingdom Deluxe Class Warpath, Legacy Velocitron Deluxe Class Cosmos, the Transformers Earthrise Netflix Bumblebee, and the Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Brawn. Now, when I reviewed this guy, I was almost certain that they were basically going to take this mold and use it to turn it into Gears, because I've always kind of regarded these two as sharing a very similar design, especially when it comes to their scale and in the head sculpt department. But no, I'm completely wrong. Gears is a brand new mold from the ground upwards. His conversion is completely different, so it's wicked again to see them all mostly receive distinctive and unique molds. You know, had they based this guy on Studio Series 86 Brawn, I'm sure it would have been an absolute banger still, because this is an awesome mold, but maybe not as good as this has turned out, because his articulation, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, I think is superior when in comparison to this Studio Series figure. And for two more, just to give you guys a real sense of scale, here we have the Studio Series 86 Voyager Class Ironhide, and finally the soon to be replaced go-to Transformers Earthrise Optimus Prime. Now, as we check out Gears' transformation, as if I couldn't blow any more smoke up this figure's ass, it is once again super straightforward and, to be honest, incredibly enjoyable. So, to kickstart things off with, you are going to want to take a hold of the double jointed elbows and pretty much begin just folding those up. Do the same here for this side, hinge these sections here all the way up. Then you'll want to spin around here to the back and take what are basically his heel spurs. So, straighten these bad boys out and do exactly the same here for the opposite side. Then you'll take the backpack and completely detach it away from the main torso. Now, a sick attention to detail is that when you are transforming this guy, it also reveals some additional detail sculpted inside, which you only see during the transformation, so that is a great touch. You'll then want to take the front tires, spin those outwards, then what you'll do is take a hold of the head sculpt and flip this all the way around until the back is now facing the front. Then for the next step, you are going to want to take a hold of that chest plate, pull this open, and then take the entire chest piece and slide this here all of the way down. That will then allow enough clearance for us to take those butterfly joints and begin rotating these inside these hollow cavities, so do the same here for this side. With that done, it then creates these tiny little slots on the top of the shoulders that these tabs here are going to slide into. So lift this here all the way up and over and begin snapping those there into place. Then for the next step, you are going to want to spin him pretty much to the side, and here is where we are going to make use out of those double jointed knees. So you are first of all going to want to bend here at this joint, flip it all the way up, and then use the second one so that we can snap that incredibly seamlessly to the front part of the truck. Spin around here to this side and do exactly the same. So make use out of that first joint and then begin to rotate the second joint, snap that there into place. As we check out the chest piece, there are these two slots here and here. Those are going to slide into those tabs. So begin lifting that up. The chest plate will then snap into what is pretty much the back of the truck, and then for a few finishing touches, you are going to want to flip out that tire, and then for a final step, flip out this one. And bang! Here we have Gears fully transformed into his incredibly toon-accurate truck mode. So, a great alt mode to accompany that brilliant robot mode. As we check out the details, the paintwork and the sculpting for the front is on point. And the biggest takeaway that I get from this would be that once again Hasbro are finally choosing to go with solid plastic over transparent pieces. This kind of cel-shaded blue that we have for the windshield I think is a marked improvement to some of the previous Legacy releases, and judging from some of the future Studio Series characters, this is something hopefully we're going to see see more and more when it comes to some of these G1 universe characters. The side of the truck I think is looking on point, the wheels have been super nicely painted, they also roll like an absolute dream, so he shouldn't have any issues in making that multiversal jump over to Legacy. And as we check him out here from the back, the chest piece does pretty much just become the back of the truck, but all in all, it's a very solid truck. I mean, as we check him out here from the top and the underside, everything is incredibly tightly compact, and I also love how the legs and the feet kind of fold up to form the back of the truck, which again is near enough smack on to the actual animation model. I guess if I had to find some complaints, it would be the lack of proper weapon integration. You know, much like we're seeing from most Legacy characters, the blasters pretty much just hang off the side or on the top. It would have been awesome had they maybe made use out of this tiny hollow cavity that we have above the head. But you know what? Maybe this could be a stealth mode for Gears to whack out on the battlefield to annihilate those Decepticon forces. And to fire through some vehicle mode comparisons to show you guys that he scales just as nicely in alt mode as he does in robot mode. First up, we have him stacked up against the Legacy Evolution Deluxe Beachcomber, the Transformers Kingdom Deluxe Class Huffer, so again, pretty decent when it comes to size, and I think overall a much stronger figure than this guy. As I said, this is a decent mini-bot update, but I think at the moment it's looking to be one of the weakest out of the lineup. You know, the truck mode, personally, I didn't think looked too great. Granted, I don't have the blaster and the shield attached, but I was never really a huge fan of how it always looked like it was bent. You know, nothing ever properly straightens out with this guy, but at least in terms of scale, they look pretty cool as a group. In contrast to Huffer though, here we have another Kingdom mini-bot. This is Warpath, who I think has one of the strongest alt modes out of all of these updates so far, and again, the scale is pretty much spot on. For a pretty wacky comparison, we have the Legacy Velocitron exclusive Cosmos, really and truly just to keep consistency between these comparisons. So here is a flying saucer, a UFO, stacked up against a tiny old truck. The Netflix Earthrise Volkswagen Bumblebee, and I hear rumours that in the future we are set to see a Studio Series 86 version of Bumblebee, so it will be really interesting to see how that improves over this guy, because with the exception of the parts forming, to be honest, I think he's pretty much perfect. Here is how he stacks up against the Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Brawn. So to kind of go back to my earlier point, despite me initially suspecting that these would be based on the same mold, they are completely different. As you can tell from the truck modes, they share no tooling, no engineering whatsoever, but a great carryover from Brawn would once again have to be that kind of cel-shaded blue for the windscreen. I think that looks banging, and like I mentioned, I'm hoping we can see this used more and more going forwards for some of these G1 characters. Which, speaking of, here we have the Studio Series 86 battle damaged Ironhide, and that paintwork looks sick. It is just a shame that when it comes to the windshield, there is a big nasty piece of battle damage where he has been savagely wiped out by the Decepticons. And finally, to round things off, we have the go-to, the Earthrise Leader Class Optimus Prime, and much like the Netflix Bumblebee, I'm super excited to see as to how that upcoming Studio Series 86 Commander is going to handle this design, because for the longest time I've always thought that it could never get better than the Earthrise Optimus Prime, so it will be interesting to see how they improve on what I have always thought to be the absolute GOAT when it comes to G1 Prime. And so, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Legacy United Deluxe Class Autobot Gears. As I've been banging on for the most part of this video, I think this guy is brilliant, you know, well worth that kind of 4-year wait after he was initially teased way back in 2020. The details are crazy, especially that kind of opening chest plate, which as I mentioned is based on one very brief scene in one episode, so that is a fantastic attention to detail. To kind of celebrate the 40th anniversary for Transformers this year, the design team are absolutely knocking out of the park when it comes to some of these legacy updates. The articulation is banging, the transformation super straightforward yet incredibly effective, and the truck mode I think is great, you know, an awesome companion piece to that wicked robot mode. So without a doubt, if you're a fan of G1 and you were kind of missing some of those G1 characters in the first wave, then I definitely think Gears is more than going to make you happy, because as someone who never grew up with the original G1 show, I am absolutely in love with the way this guy kind of poses, articulates and feels in hand. I would love to get your thoughts on Gears down in the comment section below. What do you guys think? I want to thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review, transform and roll out!